I called the presentation 2020 Vision because 2020 vision is perfect vision. So I'd like to think we had a perfect vision of the future. But 2020 is a magic word in the sense that we now have about 6 years up to 2020 to change the world before a lot of things change. For instance, the number of transistors that you can cram onto a silicon chip is going to double and double again every 2 years between now and 2020. But by 2020, we'll have about 64 billion transistors on a silicon chip. And that's about the maximum that we can have. So at that period, nanotechnology is going to replace the silicon chip technology. So is quantum physics. Quantum technology will replace that as well. Secondly, I believe that during that 6-year period, we have a time gap of which the world has the possibility of making bigger changes in education than it made in the 200 years after the development of the printed, mass-produced book in Europe about almost 600 years ago. So there is a potential, tremendous potential for us to change the world knowing what we know now. I think the biggest thing is going to be that the way in which technology has changed. Firstly, only a fool worships his tools. But the way the technology has changed has meant that we are now going to rely on everybody having a talent or a passion or a strength to be great at something. But then the need is already to put together that sort of talent into multi-talented teams, so that whether you work for Google or Apple or any of the other great companies in the world, you're going to be forced to think not only to develop your own talents and your own strengths, but to be able to work together in multi-talented teams. And that means starting at school, both in the terms of developing your talent and your strengths and your passions, but also starting off in the education system of working together in teams so that musical specialists, those who love music and have a talent for music, can work with people like me who have a talent for written words, or others who have a talent for costume design. Others might have a talent for singing. We say it in New Zealand, where I live, that almost every child wants to be a little Peter Jackson. Peter Jackson, the producer and director of Lord of the Rings. Because Peter Jackson says that 20th century literacy was only being able to read Lord of the Rings, but 21st century literacy is for every student to be able to work in teams to produce Lord of the Rings as a multimedia production, like it was on the movies. So that's what I mean about the way in which you have to start at school, learning to act as if you will be acting in the real world of the future, which is the world of now. Firstly, I haven't visited ever any of your public schools in Spain, so I don't know. But in 1997, a group of European school principals at international schools devised a program that tied in completely with my vision of the future. It was later called the International Baccalaureate Primary Years Program, at which the primary years program, children and students of that age were able to look at the whole future of the world in a way of becoming completely rounded citizens. I happened to be working at the time as a consultant to a big international baccalaureate school in Singapore, and I was thrilled with what I saw at that IB primary years program. When I arrived in Madrid last week, I was thrilled to be taken to 2 SEK schools, which were full IB schools. They were brilliant, absolutely brilliant, as good as anything in the world. And I've been fascinated why Spain has the highest rate in Europe of youth unemployment between 15 and 24, when you have such a wonderful system. I then went down to Soto Grande, and Soto Grande, I've been there before, and some friends of mine set up the Soto Grande International School. And again, there was one of the best schools I've seen in the world. So already in Spain, I've seen, of the 3 schools I have seen, they are 3 of the best in the world. And I believe they are a basis for retraining teachers to teach methods. And not only for private schools, I think the whole principle should apply to all schooling, because it deals with the whole child, the whole concept of educational development. And it deals with the whole concept of making sure you can develop your talent to the fullest, but put it together in multi-talented teams. And that, to me, is what the future is all about.